And in that case, since the hydroxy group is at this side, then we actually call this one alpha D glucopyranose. It is called alpha D glucopyranose because it is pyranose structure. This is pyranose structure, right? Pyran structure. And this structure actually is structure for what? For glucose, because the orientation of the hydroxy group and the hydrogen group actually resemble that of what? Of glucose, and it is glucose. So that's why we are calling it alpha. It is alpha because the hydroxy group is pointing downward, right? Then it is D because the normal chain form, if you rewrite this structure in the straight form, you're going to have the orientation of what? Of the hydroxy group on common 5 at the right side. So that's why we have it to be D glucopyranose. That's the structure. Then in the case of that of the beta D glucose, this is what we are going to have. So here we're going to have a diagram here. This is our pyran form again, right? So from here, instead of having the hydroxy group here, we're going to have the hydroxy group at the top, and that shows that it is actually referred to as beta. So you're going to have hydrogen here, we're going to have hydroxy group here, we're going to have hydrogen here. Then in this case as well, we're going to have our hydrogen at the downward part, then we're going to have hydroxy group at this side. Then here as well, we're going to have our OH group, we're going to have hydrogen here, then we're going to have hydrogen is here, we're going to have CH2OH here as well. So in this case, the hydrogen is now facing what? Upward. Then we call this one what? Beta D glucopyranose. That's just it. Now, if we want to draw the normal structure form of glucose, that is the normal aldehyde form of glucose, that is normal aldehyde form of glucose, that is we don't want to draw it in form of what? Of pyran or in form of pyran, whether it is alpha D glucopyranose or beta D glucopyranose. This normal structure of glucose is actually drawn like this. We are going to have OH here, right? Then there's going to be what? A bond here that point downward towards what? The carbon here. So this carbon is going to have an hydrogen here. We are going to have double bond here, right? This shows that this is an aldehyde functional group, right? So here we are going to have another bond connected to what? A carbon here, which is going to be holding hydroxy group and also what? An hydrogen. Then here as well, we are going to have a carbon here, which is the last carbon, carbon number 6, carrying OH here, right? Then from there, we are going to have hydrogen here, right? So we are going to have an hydroxy group here as well. We are going to have hydrogen here. Then we are going to have hydroxy group here as well. We are going to have hydrogen here. Then here as well, we are going to have our hydroxy group at this second part and also what? Hydrogen. So in this case, this is actually the normal aldehyde form of glucose. Apart from maybe pyranose, alpha D pyranose or alpha beta D pyranose. So here we're going to have this one in aldehyde form, and this is referred to as D glucose. There is nothing like alpha or beta, because the carbon number 1 here, which is the anomeric carbon now it is not called anomeric carbon. It is actually what? The functional group carbon atom here. It is carbon number 1, but there is nothing like hydroxy group here. That shows that the hydrogen that's supposed to be written here has actually reacted with the oxygen, which we actually react with this oxygen, right? That is, this hydrogen has reacted with this oxygen, forming what? The alcohol group that you are seeing on this side, right? Then apart from that, this hydrogen, this carbon is holding an hydrogen. If there is a removal of this hydrogen, we are going to have our oxygen left with double bond. So the bond will isomerize with the bond here. So we are going to have a double bond here. That's how we are having double bond. So this is normal aldehyde form of glucose, right? So, and this is the pyranose form of glucose. And don't forget that whenever you're talking about the pyran and the furan, I said the pyran is the most stable stable form of glucose, while the furan is not stable form of glucose, but stable form for fructose. That's the case of fructose, right? Now let's move to the pyranose and also furanose structure itself. That is, I'm going to talk about the chain, how to draw the cyclic structure of the pyranose and also the furanose as well. But just now, as far as this glucose is concerned, this is the structure of D glucose. So and let's move to the pyranose form, pyranose and also furanose. Details on it. Now, Let's move to the Pyranose and Furanose structure. Now listen carefully here. You see the outward projection formula, projection, let me simply write projection here, is actually drawn based on six-membered ring. Based on the six-membered ring, you have the first one, which is the six-membered ring, which is also known as what? The Pyranose. Right? Six-membered ring, which is the Pyranose. And the structure is what is drawn as this. We have something like this. Right? We have something like this. Now count it. We are going to have this what? 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is what? 4. This is 5. And this is what? This is 6. Right? So from there, what I'm going to do is that there is actually a double bond here in the structure of what? Of Pyran. There's a double bond here. So here we are going to place a double bond here. Right? Then from there, we are going to leave these two and we are going to place what? A double bond here. This is the normal structure of what? Of the six-member ring, which is what? Which is the Pyranose. So our projection formula is actually drawn, or let me say it is depicted based on this six-member ring. Right? So the cyclic form of glucose, they are actually known as what? The alpha D glucopyranose and also what? Alpha D glucofuranose. And I'm going to represent this. I'm going to represent the what? The furanose and also what? The furanose form of glucose and the pyranose form of what? Of glucose. Now, as far as the second one is concerned, which is what? Which is the five-member ring, right? The five-member ring. And it is also known as what? As the furanose, right? It is the furanose. Now, this is the normal structure of what? Of furanose. Something like this. You're going to have oxygen here. You're going to have something here. You're going to have something here like this. You draw it like this. Then you're going to close it here. Now, you're going to have a bond here. A double bond here. Right? And also, a double bond is what? Is here. So, in this case, this is actually what? Furan. And if you count, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is what? This is 5. So, this is the main structure of what? Of furan. So, whenever we are drawing the structure of what? Of glucose based on the six-member ring and also what? The five-member ring, we are actually representing the structure in form of what? Of outward projection formula. Because our projection formula actually draw the structure of glucose based on what? On the six-member ring and also on the what? Five-member ring. Now let's go ahead and see what's going to happen here. Now from here, if I want to draw the structure of glucose in the Pyranose form, this is basically what I'm going to be doing. Now look at this. This is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to have this. Look at this. I'm going to have oxygen here. According to Pyranose form, I'm going to have something like this. The six-member ring, right? I'm going to have something like this. Now, if you look at it, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? Then from here, the Pyranose form is going to be something like this. The Pyran form, I'm going to have something like this, right? This is what I'm going to be having, right? So from here, I'm going to have something like this. Now look at this. Here is my carbon number 1. Oxygen should be here, right? Then this is my carbon number 1. This is my carbon number 2. This is carbon number 3. This is 4. This is what? This is 5, right? Then from there again, I'm going to have another one. This is carbon number 1 here, right? This is 2. This is what? 3. This is 4. This is what? This is 5 as well. So what I'm going to be doing here is that I have to redraw the normal structure of what? Of glucose. And I know that glucose is actually what? 6 carbon atom, right? Then what I'm going to be doing here is that the first carbon here, which is the aromatic carbon, I'll first target it. Then I'm going to make sure my hydroxy group is pointing downward. If I'm trying to draw the alpha glucose, then my hydrogen is going to what? Point upward. Then from here, I'm going to have what? I'm going to have the hydroxy group here on this side. Then I'm going to have what? Hydrogen on this side. Here as well, I'm going to have I'm going to have, let me just erase this 3, 4, 5, okay. Then I'm going to have an hydrogen pointing downward on carbon number 3 and hydroxy group pointing upward here. So here as well, I'm going to have an hydroxy group pointing downward and also what? Hydrogen pointing upward. So here as well, I'm going to have CH2OH, which is the last carbon. I'm going to have hydrogen here. Now look at this. Since the hydroxide group here is pointing downward, this is basically alpha D glucopyranose. This is basically alpha D glucopyranose. Now, in the case of alpha D glucose furanose, which is what I'm saying here, the hydroxy group here is pointing downward, right? Then I'm going to have what? My hydrogen here. Let me draw this diagram very well, right? Let me draw it very well. Let me draw it very well. I'm going to have something like this. So I'm going to have something like this. Let's go ahead and draw it out. Now look at this. I'm going to have something like this, right? And this is 5. This is 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. And this is what? This is 5, right? So now let's go ahead and fix in the oxygen, the hydrogen, and also what? The hydroxide group here. So here on this carbon number 1, I'm going to have OH pointing down since I'm drawing the alpha D glucose. Then here I'm going to have my OH here, right? And I'm going to have what? Hydrogen here. Then followed by this, I'm going to have hydrogen here, and I'm going to have what? OH here, right? Then here, one thing is that if you count the carbon, glucose is a 6 carbon atom. So this is carbon number 1 here, right? This is carbon number 2 here. This is carbon number 3 here, and this is carbon number what? 4 here. So carbon number 5 on the furanose form, on the furanose structure, is carbon number 4 on glucose structure. That shows that I'm left with 2 carbon atoms. Then the 2 carbon atoms, I'm going to add them on each other, right? I'm going to have the first one here, which is COH, which will serve as carbon number what? Carbon number 5. I'm having something like this. Then I'm going to have another one on top of it, which is CH2OH, right? And here I'm going to fill this one with what? With hydrogen. Now, if you look at it very well, this is carbon number 1 now. As far as this furanose structure is concerned, the furanose form of glucose is concerned, I'm going to have this one to be carbon number 1. Then let me number it again so that you guys will not be confused. So here I'm going to have here as carbon number 1, right? This is carbon number 2, this is carbon number 3, and this is what? This is 4, this is 5, and this is what? 6. So this is basically the pyranose form of glucose, right? Now the most stable form is actually the 6 carbon atom, which is the pyranose. The pyranose is the most stable form. It is stable, right? It is stable. While the furanose, which is this, is what? Is not stable. That shows that I'm going to be represented as unstable. So the stable form is what? Is the glucopyranose, while the unstable form is what? Is the alpha D glucofuranose. And that's just it as far as the outward projection formula is concerned. So outward projection formula actually makes the what of the pyranose form and also what? Furanose structure to actually draw, or let me just say to actually project the structure of what? Of glucose. So that's just it. So if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share with your friend, and do well to subscribe. Subscribe for more video like this and for more better explanation like this. Thanks for watching.